Hi, I am here today with the fabulous Melanie Wood, originally from Scotland, now on the Gold Coast of Australia. We are here to chat about things like hardcore sales, not hardcore sales. Melanie, hi, thanks so much for coming today.
Hello, Elle. Thank you so much for having me. I've been so excited to come on and do this with you.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, so first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes. So as you said, I'm from Scotland originally. I'm in Australia and Queensland and have been here for 8 years. I have a beautiful view of the beach and the ocean, which has been a childhood dream of mine and particularly a business dream of mine. So I started my business 4 years ago. And it was not planned at all. I teach people how to do speaking and public speaking communication in teams. And public speaking was something I was so petrified of. I used to avoid it at all costs. I was a manager in previous jobs and I used to avoid chairing meetings, sweaty palms, like shaky voice, all of those things. And then when I came to Australia 8 years ago, I decided that no more fear was going to hold me back from doing stuff. And I overcame the fear of public speaking. And this is where I am now because of that. Now, this is what I teach to other people. And really out of my business as well is there's a lot of personal development, spirituality that has massively been my journey since coming to Australia 8 years ago. And it's something that I have brought massively into my business, and particularly in the last 18 months, is really bringing communication and speaking about bringing it both together, like personal and professional together, and being that one person. So it's something I'm so passionate about helping people with, and being able to have self-care, but being able to communicate, and particularly what you're saying around sales as well and business, we want to be able to communicate kindly to ourselves, but kindly to other people, and not having any attachment on outcomes and results either, because that's a massive thing. And it's something I have had to work through myself, to not have attachment and scarcity and all of those things around business, but around anything to do with when we communicate with other people. It's not just on business, it's life as well. So it is. So really that's a little short snippet of what I do, but it's something that I absolutely am so passionate about, empowering people to really be able to upskill yourself and be able to empower yourself to take onus and be able to make changes in your life and your business as well.
Wow, you have fit so much into such a short period of time. Not only your 8 years in Australia, but even just that snippet then. Wow, well, that's really inspiring. So much, I think, of what you said is pertinent to estate and letting agents. I was talking to a client last night, for example, who was discussing with me that there's quite a lot of letting agents, and they are one-women bands. And they have people approach them who would like to sell their house through them because, you know, a landlord maybe doesn't want to be a landlord with that particular property anymore. And so says to the letting agent, can I sell through you? But they feel a bit intimidated. They don't really know how to go about doing that. Because sales can be quite a male dominated environment. So I was wondering, from what you were saying about changing tack and learning to communicate in a slightly different way. So if you've been a lettings agent for a long time, a lady letting agent, just take one example, a lady letting agent for a long time, and then you get approached by various people asking you to do sales. The thing that's stopping you often is mindset. And you have to learn to communicate about a different thing in a different way.
Yes.
How would you start with that with a client with that kind of scenario, just off the top of your head?
It's something that I do every single day, and I have worked with estate agents as well. And it's really about, as soon as we go sales, like everybody's like, oh, we're doing something completely different to what I do. It's like, we've got to put a different hat on and be this different person. And it's really about, you need to dissolve the fact that it's sales, like just put that to one side and you're having a conversation. Like I say, be super curious. Like I have a curious nature, and I bring it in and be like, tell me more about that. Like, tell me more about what's going on for you. Like, this is like where I go is like, you've got the cup of tea drink, and you're like, just share with me. Tell me everything. I want to know. I'm so excited about this conversation. So it's really relaxing into it. And I say anything to do with with communication, no matter whether it's a job interview, bringing on a new client, sales, standing on stage, you're having a conversation. That's it. So we can be able to bring it down into an even level with the other person. It's like we don't put people on pedestals. Nobody's any different to us, no matter what title they have. They're the same. We're all connected. So it's really about bringing it into, I'm having a conversation with the person. And also you've got to dissolve the fact that, yes, you might want the outcome. You might want the sale. You might need the money. But really, if you attached way too much on the outcome, it's going to take away from listening, being present, to really understanding the person's needs, wants, and desires. So it's when I say is it, I say it really directly to people all the time. It's not about you and it's about the other person.
Absolutely. And is that how you would help people? So Tom Panos is a big name in Australia, actually, but he's a big name within a state agency as a trainer. And one of his things is to avoid commission breath, which is exactly what you're talking about, how to avoid becoming attached to the outcome.
Yes.
That's very much a mindset thing, I would imagine, in your kind of jargon, your terminology. So how do you go about helping people with that? Is that just remaining human and remaining empathetic?
Yeah, so what I do is I'm massive on planning and preparing. So anything to do with communication, I have hashtags with my audience is hashtag no winging it. So you never turn up to anything and wing it, right? It's like plan and prepare. I go to Baby Yoda, plan you must. So we grow confidence in ourselves. And I know I love it. I bring it in all the time. It's my most favorite. I love memes and GIFs, and Baby Yoda comes out a lot, right? He's holding me like plan you must. And so, yes, hope everybody can imagine and see that when I talk about that. And it's really about, if you spend the time beforehand to plan and prepare your questions, their responses, potential responses. Like if you've been doing that work for some time, a few years, you're going to know the questions and the responses that most people have, right? So you can plan that out, and you can sit and you can plan the potential questions that they might have, objections, responses, how you're going to respond back to that. So if you've done the work beforehand, you're going to be so much more confident, so much more relaxed in there as well. And it means that you know 100% that you've done the work and you've turned up and done your best. Whatever happens, happens. So I talk about setting intentions. So prior to the meeting is doing some breath work. I teach breath work, and then setting an intention for the conversation of the meeting, and really then just letting go and surrendering to whatever happens, because you've done the preparation. You've done your work. If that person's not ready to go and to join and to buy, that's their issue, not yours, because we're always going to be up against people who are not ready to do that.
Yeah, of course. Do you know, I do exactly the same thing with my coaching clients. Going into that valuation meeting, that MA as we would call it in the UK, for example, there's a massive process before that. Just about you as the valuer. If you're part of a team of other people with an administrator or a junior, senior neg, or maybe you've got a manager above you, you know, whatever your team setup is, so much of what I do is working on the processes for you as an individual and the team around you, to make sure that actually you are fully prepared as you go into that. And I've always found that actually really lifts pressure from me. So it's really interesting to hear that that's how you would help people do it professionally as well.
Yes, absolutely. I say it's like the secret sauce, the key ingredient that majority of people forget about, and they don't do it.
Absolutely. I think that's a really, really interesting point. Tell me more about the breath work. It's not something I know a huge amount about, so I wonder if other people in the group might be as ignorant as me.
So there's lots of different ones out there, you know, the yoga, belly breathing, those types of things. There's a lot of them out there. But last year during COVID, I did a certification last year, and it's through the HeartMath Institute. and it's a heart coherence breath work that I teach people. Definitely during last year, I just saw like people's stress and anxiety, and then you're like, go and speak in public or go and speak on camera. It's like adding more stress to people. So it's a breath work that I get people to really connect with your heart. I'm big on speaking from the heart to anybody that you're talking to. It's really about coming back and you coming from the heart, which means you embrace yourself as well, but you're also speaking to that person with empathy. It's a big one for me. So what you do is you do a breath work and you close your eyes, but you're really focusing your attention in your heart area. And then you're linking it to someone or something or a focus of calm and ease. And if you do that, what happens is if you're feeling a little bit nervous or stressed or anxious about going into that meeting, which again, as humans, we are, because our brain's like, you sure you want to do this? Like, this is really unknown and not safe. So what happens then, it's like it makes intelligent people really silly, because you're suddenly like, 2 minutes ago before I sat in that meeting, I was really intelligent and I know my stuff. Then I sit here, like, who is that person? Like, who am I? Like, I really actually know my stuff, but I don't know who this person is sitting here. This person right there knows their stuff. Here, don't know what's happening. So what happens is when we get nervous and stressed is that we actually shut down a part of our brain that makes us intelligent. So if you're ever wondering why you go blank on things, you can't think of that next word, it's because your heart's like, we need to run, we need to fight, flight, or freeze. And even if you don't feel stressed, your body is actually feeling nervous and stressed because it's sending signals, right? So when we come back to the root cause, our heart sends more messages to our brain than the other way around. So when we can come back to our heart and center our heart, it will then stop sending adrenaline and cortisol flying through our whole body, and we will become intelligent again. So that's the things that I teach people, but it's also the fact that we can do it with our eyes open. So sitting in a meeting, sitting on Zoom, it's something I really wanted to find something that I could give my clients a tool that no one else in the room would even know that they were doing it. So I could sit here and do it and you wouldn't even know I was doing it.
That's awesome. Okay, that's a game changer for a lot of people, I can imagine. How interesting. Okay, when going back to something else you said in that piece then was about video work and Zoom, of course, but a big part of my coaching and a big part of quite a few other coaches coaching is around video work on social media, and Zoom has made quite a lot of people a lot more confident with video, because we've been using it for the whole of the pandemic, and it's sort of numbed that fear because it's become more familiar. But for some people, going on video is still terrifying them, despite all the evidence that demonstrates how effective it is for your business, how successful you'll become if you're doing it correctly. So again, how could you help people with a video call, not video call, practicing to become competent and confident at communicating through video?
The more you do it, like if you're doing it once and you don't do it again for another month, it's like you're not retraining your brain and you're not connecting that wire to be thinking, I do this all the time. So even if I say to people who've never really done it, just get my Zoom account and go on and maybe start doing it with friends and family. Like consistently do something, whether it's several times a week or every day, whether it's going on and talking to yourself. I know people would be like, oh, so not doing that, right? But I say that the more that we can practice, so getting your phone, getting your laptop out and just thinking, okay, could I do that not on the phone? Could I do that as a video call? Start stretching yourself. Like I hear so many people, and particularly in sales, it may be addressed to your group. And I say, how do you do your sales call? And they're like, I got to do it on the phone. And I'd be like, do you not do it like watching the person? And I say, like, start stretching yourself and going, do I do it all the time just on the phone like this? Because yes, it's easier, it's comfortable. And maybe you might have notes and you might feel that the person doesn't see that you're looking at notes. But then on a video, it's then polite to say, just in case you see me looking down, I've got my pen here, I'm just taking notes. Person will really value that you're listening to them and taking notes. When we tell people that's what we're doing, because they can't see. So really, I'd say is like practicing Again, doing something with family, friends, like even if it's like taking videos on your phone and practicing, deleting them and putting them away, just getting really comfortable to do it. The other one I say to people that I come across as well is people say, but I don't want to watch myself all the time, which I do get, right? But the other thing you could do is like just get a picture or a post-it note and stick it over yourself and just speak to the camera. Like there is ways of getting
absolutely. Yeah, I learned that trick from Chris Watkins, who's another big name in our industry. And yeah, I've been using that for many years, and people can't believe that I still do that, you know. But some days you just, but you still need to do the work. So I think that's sort of tying in that self-care that you mentioned earlier as well. You know, finding ways to hit your work KPIs whilst respecting your personal KPIs.
Yes, it's so important. It's so important to still stay in your comfort zone, but just think of like the one thing you could stretch yourself each day. Doesn't have to be like hard hitting, forcing it. I'm going to do like 10 videos today or like 10 Zoom calls. It's like, what can I do differently tomorrow that I didn't do today? Could I have that one call and do a Zoom? Could I then practice a video? It's like the power of just one thing every single day is something that you are giving yourself self-care, but you are stretching yourself a little bit more each day. And then over time, you're like, oh, wow, check me out. Like I was there then, and this is where I'm now. And I was only doing one thing a day.
I think that's a really awesome way of describing it, actually, because I know that I've worked in environments within this industry where actually there was no room for that type of activity. You know, it was do 50 of these things immediately, you know, and that is one way of doing it. But actually, if you're, you know, a sole trader, then you've got a lot of other things you need to do as well. And it can be really hard to push yourself that far out of your comfort zone, can't it? But if you go, then maybe you're encouraging yourself, and you're also not giving into your own excuses.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's something that I come across all the time and particularly with videos, I always say it's like the first thing to go. If somebody feels under pressure, they're like, it's the first thing to go. And I say to clients and my audience, so like, you need to treat that like it was a client or a sales call. It's just as important. It's actually probably more important to be visible and seen and heard than it is doing those calls, because those things are actually what's going to bring those things in as well. So yeah, it's like not buying into the excuses of why you didn't do it.
Oh, I so agree with that. And it's prospecting without it. It's prospecting without sort of being direct, isn't it? You know, there is still very much important within our industry to pick the phone up and speak to people. That there's absolutely no way of getting around that. But if you're doing your video every day, or however many times a week you commit to it, in a public environment, say Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever your platform is, you're going to be telling people, hi, I exist, I'm great. If you like me, call me. And it's incredible how much that does work. I completely understand where you're coming from.
Massively. I say that in what I do teach is that speaking is the fastest way to get clients. It's the fastest way because it's a massive touch point, as well as picking up the phone. I mean, I DM people, I still do all of those things as well, but I show up and I teach other people how to do it, because it's then when people are Googling you and searching you, they'll go and they'll be able to see videos, they'll be able to see things, and they want to hear you. They want to see you. They want to kind of say, would I be able to be a good fit with that person because I've heard them and seen them? And that breaks down the barrier before you get them on the phone.
Not only that, not only are you building trust with strangers that you've never even met, not only are you building trust with them, you're also eliminating those people that actually you're never going to gel with. Because at the end of the day, we can't be everything to everyone. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to rumble along all right. But it almost self-identifies for people. Oh no, I'm not their cup of tea. They're not my cup of tea. I won't even bother ringing them. And then you're increasing your chances of every interaction with a client being a positive one. Because at the end of the day, you can't make sure everything in the world is positive, and things do go wrong in a estate agency. You're dealing with incredibly stressed people, especially in the UK, because the system's so convoluted. So I think as long as you put those speaking things out there, you're saying to people, look, this is who I am, and I think we could rumble along fairly well together.
Yeah.
Please let me be there for you.
Definitely. Absolutely love it.
So one of the things that can divide the industry in the UK is something called door knocking. Okay. It means when there's a big board outside someone's house that says for sale, so they're going, hello, can you see me? I'm trying to sell my house. You then go and knock on the door and go, hello. Now, my opinion is, and my experience has been, that as long as you communicate pleasantly from the heart with integrity, because that's what that gives you, you have the opportunity to communicate with someone on their doorstep and say, hey, I saw that massive sign. Maybe I could help in the future, and I have a whole script around that. But what you've just been saying about communicating with people, that's actually just another opportunity for them to say, hey, do you know what? I don't really fancy it this time. Thanks anyway. Or to say, I really like that you've approached me and I would love to work with you in the future. And that doesn't mean getting the sale.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it from here, everything's karma, right?
Yeah. And people remember you. So thing that I say as well is that for every time you don't offer your services or don't share something or knock the door, pick up the phone, do a video, you're actually doing people a disservice by not. Because by showing up, knocking the door, picking up the phone, you're just saying, hey, I'm here. This is what I have to offer. Here's my card. Here's something. I wish you well. And I hope that you get your house sold. But anyway, I just thought I'd drop by and say, hey. And it's the biggest thing that people are so scared of doing, but it's actually that part of the fact if you have no attachment to the outcome, you've just had a pleasant conversation with someone that day. Like, that's amazing. That's super cool.
It's so nice, isn't it? I mean, if you go for a dog walk where I dog walk, I never meet anyone because I live on a mountain. But if you dog walk in a normal location, someone was saying on Facebook the other day that actually if you make an effort to smile, you get lots of smiles back.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like the way that you advocate communicating with other people is the same, that if you enter that with a positive smiling intention, you're far more likely to get it back.
Yes, that's right. And even like I'm running this challenge in one of my groups this week and I'm getting people, giving them questions to go and ask for the next 24 hours, like to use this one question and just ask like random people or people they know, that type of thing. And I say like, because that's the confidence building to having conversations with people, asking people really random questions to find out more about them. It's really, and it's fun. But I know some people will be outside their comfort zone to do it. But like, so then when we come to sales, you've been doing all of that work of like reaching out to people randomly as you're walking the dog or doing whatever, you're having a conversation. See, when it comes to doing the sales or picking up the phone, it's going to be easy because you've been doing all of this stuff before where you could just be like, I'm not going to bother speaking to anybody when I'm walking the dog. Right, which is fine because self-care, you might not feel like it. I don't feel like talking to everybody on the beach every day. It's like earphones in, not today, people. But then there's other days when I'm like, I'm curious to who I might meet today and I might chat to them. So it's picking and choosing. But the more you can see every opportunity each day to have a conversation and really thinking of these things, like you can go on Google, and find some really super cool questions and think for a week, I'm going to ask that one question to people that I might meet or work with and really build that confidence and also build your own skill with it as well.
That's a really cool way of a technique, really cool technique to just, like you said earlier, tweak that comfort zone. Just keep pushing it slightly and learn to be curious, because actually if you're so busy being nervous and having your fight, flight or freeze limbic system being in charge, then it gives you an opportunity to practice being curious and learn that that's a safe thing to do and that the lizard brain is right.
Like I'm safe and secure to ask this question. It's fine. But that's the thing, as adults, we get so programmed into being scared of things. And I've been there myself prior to doing this. I probably wouldn't have done a lot of those things. But it's also going back to what some traits and personalities you had as a child. Like I've started to come back to going like, I didn't realize that I was as curious as this, like, because as adults, we tend to not do it. And particularly if you're in the first few years of business, it's like head down, bum up. Like there's no time for curiosity.
Love that phrase. Yeah, absolutely. And you've still got to hustle, haven't you? At the end of the day, you know, it's all well and good thinking about self-care, and it's all well and good trying to be lovely and kind and empathetic, but you do just have to put in the work as well, don't you? And there's no getting away from it.
Yeah, exactly. And I say, you know, one of my coaches talks about seasons. We all have seasons. So we might have seasons where we really push for that season, but then the next season we actually get to step back. So it's working with what, like for us, it's been winter. So I've noticed a lot of my audience people, it's like nobody really wants to do anything. And it seems to just be a little bit more chilled because it's winter. But then this week, as we're coming out of winter, going into spring, people are like, oh my God, I want to start doing stuff, right? So it's that season of recognizing where you live, what the weather is like, what the season is, and is this time to push? Or is this time to really step back and have self-care because your audience is not in that place? And I'm sure selling houses, there'll be times of the year that's a little bit quieter than others. It's starting to track that so that you can plan ahead and go, hey, like I remember this time was a bit quiet last year. This is maybe time that I'm going to take time off so that I'm ready to push when it opens back up again. You know, it's starting to really in tune to that, to what's happening, and have that self-care. You know, I do 50-50. So 50% action, 50% self-care. That's not an every day and every week because it doesn't always happen depending what I have, but it's my intention and the way in which I work, because I'm very into creating, rehearsing, and really starting to go like, give me somebody who's ready today. Like I'm ready, they're ready and prepared, bring me them because I'm ready. I know that not everybody is in that space to do that. And it wasn't in the beginning of my business. I definitely had scarcity and be like, I just want to work with everybody because I need the money. So it takes time. And it honestly has taken me 4 years to even just have a day off my business. You know, I didn't do any of those. I'm completely on my own in terms of like, you know, a business, in terms of income. It's like I didn't have any of those things. And I'm sure it is for a lot of people to go from starting a business to wanting to take time off. It's like only in the last 6 months for me have I started to like have a reward day at the end of each month, having a day off and not feeling guilty for having that day off either as well. So these are things that I say to people that if you want to bring in self-care, but again, your mind might not allow you, it's like do the one thing, step away for an hour, step away for something and build. Like I had to build it up for me to be okay and know that the whole world wasn't going to fall down or my business would you know, I went away for 3 days a few months ago and I was like, everything was still here. Like it was all good. It was fine. Right.
What a relief.
I know. I was like, oh, I can do this again. That's quite good. I'll do that in another 90 days.
Oh, bless you. Oh, it is hard. It is hard setting up a business. And I think there's no getting away from that. And that, you know, that's why often, from what I've seen in my experience, you know, might not be the same as everyone else's, but that's often why chaps are heads of businesses, because they, you know, they have that grind and it's sort of inbuilt in them in a different way than it can be for a woman. And that's not always the case. And these are all sweeping generalizations, but I've certainly seen chaps have a lot more consistency innately than I certainly know I don't have that in quite the same way. But that's where the processes come in. Because if you follow the process, then you've got a routine and you don't have to use so much of this. So it just sort of happens.
Yeah, that's right.
Something else I was going to ask you about is a big part of being an estate agent and probably a realtor in Australia as well, is making a lot of phone calls. And I mean a lot of phone calls. And often people don't want to hear from you, you know, because cold calling has become such a bore, hasn't it, of modern age, and spammy and all that sort of thing. So it can be something that you end up putting off. And but a bit like doing videos, prospecting using the phone is, if you ring 100 people in the UK from the phone book, there's going to be 10 that are selling their house.
Yes.
So how do you get into the mindset, and how do you sort of protect yourself from what is going to be sometimes not an enjoyable experience?
And I think that's doing the work, but doing the work for you, for setting that intention of, like, again, looking into going, I'm going to speak to 100 people today. Like, that's like really exciting. You know, I wonder who I'm going to chat to today, or, you know, who might I be able to sign up. So I think it's just taking that breath, setting your intention to speaking to this amount of people, and maybe even like setting a goal and being like, right, my goal today is like 10 people out of the 100, like 10 people today. And it's like putting like good, great, best. So maybe like 10's good, 15's great, but then maybe your best is like 20. So play like a game with yourself and write it down. And like every time you maybe cross off your next phone call, you're like, you're getting closer to like your best. In doing that and really creating some more fun and play with it. It's something that I have to do myself. If I'm in a sales call, is like have some real fun about it. I also look at it and go, if somebody says no, it's where they're at. It's where they're at right now. They're not at, and remember, you know, I'm sure you do say to your clients and audience a lot, they're not saying no to you personally. That's the thing you have to overcome, is that they're not saying no to you. They're actually saying no to themselves. They're not saying no to you. So they are. It's that type thing. And to keep, I talk about perseverance. I've got a book that I read, and they talk about perseverance and endurance. So it's the endurance that you have to take under embarrassment, humiliation. Think of like every day you picking up the phone and speaking to 100 people. It's endurance, it's perseverance to get to where you want to get to. And it's the people who do persevere and endure it do end up at the end of having some really good outcomes and results and success. But you have to be prepared to do the work. Like you know, in the beginning of my business, I showed up every day. I did so much that I was not getting paid for. I was doing so much, but it's the fact that it does pay off, the endurance and the perseverance. So what I say, the 3 Ps is the purpose of your work every day. And it doesn't have to be what's my purpose in life. It's like, what's the purpose of today that I need to do? And then it's perseverance. And then it's patience. I call patience as nurture. Not patience is virtue, patience is nurture, because when we can be patient with ourselves to endure and be perseverance, then we do end up getting the rewards in the end. And I can honestly say from my own experience of the time and effort that I put in the first 3 years of my business, when I didn't see it, the debt was coming in. I didn't at times even have money for rent. And then within like 12 months is like, I saw a massive growth and was like, that, you know, I didn't give up. I didn't give up on those first 3 years of not having it and really sacrificing a lot. For people like that, it does come out in the other end. And I can say that firsthand. I'm sure you've come across it yourself as well, is that keep going, keep showing up and doing work.
I love that. That's absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much. You mentioned a book there. Can you remember the name of it off that top of your head?
So it's called Thick Face Black Heart. Thick Face Black Heart, and it's a book. It's a book that really helps entrepreneurs and managers and leaders. I read it for myself, but it's also because I help entrepreneurs, managers, and leaders. And it's a way of still having empathy, but being able to set boundaries and barriers, but also how you're communicating with people as well, and not to drop. I teach a lot around this commanding respect and boundaries with my clients. And that book helps me, but there's also some things out of it that I help to teach people as well. So it's a really good book, and I highly recommend it to people, because when we're communicating with people a lot, we can very easily slip down to letting our boundaries go, the respect for ourselves, because we maybe want to make the sale. And it's the fact that I say is that when we keep the boundaries, we keep the respect, the other person respects you more.
That's incredibly powerful. That is so relevant to this industry, whether you're in sales or lettings, or you're doing both, or you want to move from one to the other. That is phenomenal. Okay, yeah. Awesome. So I'm going to need a link to that book to make sure that we share it to everybody. And the other thing was, you mentioned your group and a challenge that you're doing. So I don't know if when we put this out to the group, whether it will coincide with a challenge you've got running, but just in case people are interested,
yeah, definitely.
What do you do in the group?
I can share some links. I've got some freebies as well. I've got some freebies around public speaking, communication. So definitely I can send you that. And then I have a free and a paid Facebook group. So but in either both, there is some things that run at times, challenges, but there's also some great tips and things like that as well. So I can definitely, I'm sure when this is up that it'll be putting into the comments as well. So I can definitely send you links to things so that people can definitely tap into some free resources.
That'd be awesome. I think that'd be really helpful. I think a lot of what you've spoken about resonates with a lot of people that I speak to, because there's so much about communication. The whole job is a communication job. But I think also sometimes you think, I've got to be an extrovert to be in this job. But from what you've been describing, if you're communicating correctly, it shouldn't matter too much if you're introverted naturally or extroverted naturally. Would you agree with that?
Not at all. Like I probably teach a lot of introverts. I am actually quite introverted myself, even though this is what I teach. Like after this, I'll be, it's now coming up for 6. I'll probably be getting my jammies on and I'll be like having my dinner on the couch. Even when I speak on stages as well, like I'm like, okay, that's my game face. We're on stage. And then I'm like off and I'm like, I'm going home now. I'm getting in my jammies. So I can be very introverted, but extroverted when I need to be, but I'm mostly like a homebody. Like I want to be at home and just like chilling out and doing my own thing. But majority of my clients are all introverts. And I say that for a lot of introverts, you actually make the better speakers and communicators because you have so much around your heart and your passion around what you do, because it takes a lot for an introvert to do this type of work. And particularly if you're doing sales, communicating with people a lot, that's massive. And it's obviously because it's something that you're really love to do and you're passionate about. So it comes from the heart a lot more, which affects you more when it comes to the outcomes and the results, because you probably take it to heart more as well, because you want to help people, right? So definitely, it doesn't matter either way. But what I always say to introverts is, don't be a Tony Robbins if you're not a Tony Robbins. Like never try to be someone that you're not, because introverts can command a room. Like so much introverts can command a room, from being soft-spoken to standing still to really grabbing the attention of people, because introverts tend to be a lot slower than extroverts, and the other person receiving that then has time to process it. Whereas if extroverts get really overexcited, the other person's like, I don't know what happened there, but you get off the trampoline so I could catch up. Yeah. So I say, like, for anybody who's introverts, never feel like you feel that you are not up there with extroverts. Is like really go on your own strengths and your abilities and your traits, because introverts do have, actually, I would say, better abilities at it in terms of communication, because there's more thought process behind it.
That's fascinating. I think that as well can be, as I started this chat, people that are in lettings that are thinking about maybe branching out into sales, that can be one of the things that holds them back. It's not phrased as an extrovert and introvert, yes, but it's just sort of two different sides of the same coin, or whatever the phrase is. But yes. But I think that's really interesting, that actually there's a lot to bring to the party, which sometimes gets downplayed, I think, because introverts and extroverts become a bit of a buzzword in social media anyway, and lots of memes about it and stuff, and it can focus on the hibernation aspect more than actually loads of positive aspects.
Absolutely. And that's why I always
hibernation is brilliant.
Yes. And that's why I always love to say about myself, because then people would then take me as being interviewed, being on stage, they'd be like, she's like a real extrovert. And you're like, I'm really actually not. I can be for a little period of time, and then I'm like, I need to hibernate because I'm exhausted.
Yeah. I had literally had the same experience, well, my whole life, and I never really knew what it was.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I months ago now, and I said to the therapist, oh, I'm quite introverted, and she said the most interesting question that I've ever been asked, which was, have you always been an introvert? Totally ties in with what you were saying, remembering as a kid you were a lot more curious, but
Yes.
as an adult you learn to shut yourself off. And when she said that to me, I was like, do you know, I haven't always felt that way. I haven't always been that way. I haven't always been that person. And then you feel a bit more confident to go to stretching your comfort zone again, don't you?
Yes.
So we've done a nice big loop there.
Definitely.
Amazing. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, Melanie. It's been absolutely fascinating talking to you, and especially as it all relates to sales and lettings, because it is very much my similar script to me, in fact. So it's nice to know that it's working out there for a lot of other people, even if they're not estate agents and letting agents.
Definitely.
So we'll drop all your links for people so they can read the book, join your group if they want, and find out more about you.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Elle. This has been amazing. It's been super fun.
Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
Enjoy your jammies.
Thank you.
Bye.